2013 Board of Education special meeting. It's not on the agenda, but we always start with Pledge of Allegiance, so. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kisco.
Present.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Mr. Marola.
Yes.
Mr. Rivero.
Here.
Mrs. Inman. Mrs. Capabianca. Here. Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mrs. Placco. Here. Mrs. Batchelder. Here. Mrs. Monaco. Here. Mrs. Robbins. Here. Mr. Nergy. Mr. Tebow.
Here.
Mr. Cavanero.
Here.
Mr. Jocelyn.
Here. Jenny is not here.
Mr. Bingham, not here, and neither are the student reps, because it's not necessary for
Right.
them to be here this evening.
Okay. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to allow for community session.
We have a second for that? Second by Ellen. Opposed? Any discussion?
Chairman,
Yes.
I'm going to vote against this because it could easily have been announced in advance. It wasn't. There may be people who would have come had they known they would have the chance for him, but I don't think we should do this.
Okay. All those in favor? Adding a public session? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed is Marola, Kisco, and Mr. Deep. Okay, we will add
Do a
a.
point of order. Sorry. I guess you're not allowed to amend the agenda for a special board of ed meeting. So,
All right, well, then we won't let the public speak. Okay, we'll go on to various, well. Is our sound on back there? Yeah, thumbs up. Going into our discussion section of this, I'd like to give everybody an opportunity. We'll go around the table, let everybody give thoughts they have, opinions they have. Then we'll break into the individual departments that you want to talk about. We have members from each department here to give proposals as needed on any questions that we have. We have special ed, we have athletics, we have facilities. Who else do we have? We have business and the superintendent.
I think that you should stick to the agenda, which is you have various departments proposing, let them do their proposals, and then when we start, I assume by approval of the superintendent's proposed budget, we then will have discussion. Now, I think that would make more sense.
All right. We'll start with our athletics proposal then.
I made a packet for it. I hope everybody got one. I put one in front of everybody's face. So as we go through this presentation, hopefully some of the information will be a little bit easier to understand when we have it there. So Hope you don't mind if I stand and move around, I'm presenting you, so I get a little antsy when I'm sitting in a chair. I'm Mike McKenna, I'm the athletic director, and I'd like to go through a little bit about Torrington athletics before I start talking about some of the budget. Just a little rundown, we have 20 CIAC-sponsored varsity sports, and I've broken them down by those that are offering both boys and girls at separate teams, and single-gender sports, and then we have co-ed offerings of golf and wrestling, which we do as a cooperative team with Oliver Wolcott Technical School. So we participate with them in wrestling. We have 8 junior varsity teams. Again, I've broken it down so you can see what we have to offer. 5 freshman sports, girls and boys basketball, volleyball, football, and baseball. We also have cheerleading and dance, which are not CIAC-sponsored athletics, but they are CIAC-sponsored activities. This is just kind of a rundown of our participation levels back in a year ago. And you can see the different level, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and you see a high number of 9th and 10th graders. Those would be the students that make up a majority of our freshmen and JV teams for a total of 618 students. Split pretty evenly between boys and girls. This is the count of unique athletes. These are people's names who showed up on the eligibility list, and the total number of athletes, the total number of kids that actually participated. Last year was 434. So that's a pretty healthy number. For this year, all I have are the statistics for the first 2 seasons of the year. In a week or so, I should be able to give you more information on the spring season as we enter the eligibility list as the coaches make their final selections for their team. But you can see a pretty even split in the fall and winter seasons. Number of athletes, total 467, and 371 individuals actually participated. Again, you'll see a high number in the freshman and sophomore level. So that's, again, what makes up our JV and freshman programs. Our academic achievement in athletics. And in your packet, there's a separate sheet because the graphic there that came out on the PowerPoint handout is a little crowded. So there's a separate sheet that I attached that has the grade point averages, and we have it by sport, and the total for students making an 85 or better in grade point average through the second quarter of this year, 73% of our athletes. And if we take that to 80 and above, 87% of our athletes are making 80 or above. And only 1% of the athletes, or 7 total athletes out of 467, had a grade point average of less than 7. So if we look at that and we look at the school-wide total, 48% of our students have an 85 or above, and 63% are 80 or above. So our athletes are doing much better than the general population. Some of our achievements, just in this past year, the girls basketball team won the NBL championship. They played a fantastic tournament, NBL tournament. They won the championship. And in speaking with Mike Fritz, he was surprised even when he looked back at his records, and he found that this was their 5th straight 20-win season that they've had, which 20 games is all you can schedule for high school girls basketball. So that's winning games in the tournament to make up for any that they lost during the season. So that's a pretty significant accomplishment. I got other information. Boys swimming, they had a fantastic season this year. let me just make the, well, one of my sheets here that has the information on it, and I can relate to you. Boys swimming had 4 members of the team make all NBL, 1 that made all state. Boys soccer was runners up in the Naugatuck Valley League this year, losing a close final game. We also had the outstanding senior boy soccer player, Cheryl Borgia, for this past fall. Girls swimming had 2 all-NBL swimmers and an all-state swimmer. In indoor track, Mike Tyler came back as coach of the indoor track team this year, and we had a resurgence. We went from approximately 30 athletes last year that did indoor track to, he had 88 on his eligibility list. He said he really had 80 kids at the end that were serious in track. But that's a very significant number and an improvement. And when we move into outdoor track this season, Mike Tyler has taken over the outdoor track programs, and he already has 137 kids out, where we had about 100 last year for outdoor track both teams. So a significant change. Budget considerations when I was developing the budget, working with Mrs. Cretan. First thing is supporting the existing programs. Coaches come to me at the end of the season. We talk about what they're looking for in the next season. We talk about their wish list, the things they want. And one of the things that they come to me most with is that they want to add more games at the sub-varsity level. The JV level in soccer. Football has their full schedule of freshman games, but freshman baseball usually ends up with about 12 games, and they can schedule 20. So they always want more games. They want the kids to have more opportunities to participate. So that's one of the considerations. We need to come up with a plan to replace our equipment and our uniforms. There's a lifespan to them. We're in the process of trying to develop a better plan. We're trying to look out 3-4 years, meeting with the coaches, coming up with some of those ideas. We also sometimes, we're at the mercy of the National Federation of High School Sports, which every so often changes their uniform regulations. And they say you have to have this with your uniform. If we don't have it, we have to get a whole new set of uniforms. So that is something that helps to make our decisions for us. Expanding existing programs, okay? Determining what we need to do to expand them, what the cost is of those implementations, adding new programs. You know, we had, you know, probably on the JV soccer team this year, we probably had 22 or 23 kids. We could have had a freshman soccer team. So that's, you know, something that we would look at, and you have to, you know, we have to evaluate costs and benefits of the program. And then, you know, the Board of Education budget guidelines that we go by, and we take guidance from the board and from the superintendent's office in developing our budget. Some potential areas that I've discussed with Mrs. Cretan and Mrs. Placco and the administrative team are some areas of the budget. We now budget for about $10,000 for non-certified game personnel, the non-referees. This includes people who work at the gates to collect money, our scorekeepers and timers, announcers, and any site supervisors that we might need to hire for a particular game. This is an area that, in discussion with the coaches, and with other individuals, parents and such, we could staff this with volunteers. We could ask the coaches to put in some time to help us at games, working at the gate, working as site supervisors, timers, announcers, and so forth. And that's a $10,000 piece of the budget. Ambulance at football games. This is one that always gets people, wondering. There is no state law that says we have to have an ambulance at football games. I would say that it's, it's an expense that you can definitely, $7,200. 15 to 18% of the contact time occurs in games. The rest of the time in practice. We're not going to park the ambulance out there every afternoon. If we're not going to park it at the soccer matches, we're not going to, we really don't need to have it at a varsity football game. In my experience in 21 years as the athletic trainer here at Torrington High School, I probably called the ambulance more times for soccer matches than I did for football. I think that's an area where we could save. The response time of the ambulance is very good. We had 2 incidents this year. Luckily for our team, neither one of them were our kids, but 2 opposing players got injured in basketball games, and we had to call the ambulance, and the response time was good, and they were able to take care of the athletes. $9,200 for police coverage at our sporting events. We have 3 to 4 police officers at our varsity football games. We have 2 at our boys basketball game. Okay, the cost per officer per game is about $275. There's, I don't know. We've discussed this about how, the staffing goes, and we need to have further discussion probably with the police department on that. But there's many times when we have, policemen here, when, I know ahead of time that we're not going to have a big crowd, and it could be supervised by the staff that's on duty, professional staff that's here. So that's another potential area of savings. Transportation. We'll get to the big nut in the budget. $72,000 is approximately, what's spent on transportation. The cost is $54 an hour. I think that's going up next year. The average trip time is about 5.5 hours. So when you figure that out, and the actual, most of our games are Waterbury and Naugatuck, we're not going very far. So the real time of actually traveling on the bus is, an hour to 2 hours. So there's a lot of downtime where the bus just sits there and we're paying $54 an hour for it. The possibility of purchasing mini buses, 20-passenger buses. There are, almost all of our teams would be able to utilize those buses, with the exception of varsity football, and probably the swim teams, and the track teams would be the only ones that would not be able to use it. JV football and freshman football would probably be able to use it most times, most years. This year we had a large number of freshman football players, so that would be a little more difficult. The JV soccer teams could use it. Cross country, most years could use it. So most of our teams, we could utilize the mini buses. Much like the private schools do, they have their coaches drive the buses. In speaking with many of our coaches, I kind of took a random sampling. I tried to talk to the grouchiest ones because I figured that if they went for it, then the others would probably go for it. That they said they would be willing to drive the team if that meant saving a sub-varsity program. And you're not paying for the wait time. And there's also the added value of the buses could be used during the school day for other groups. If there's a group going to, I know there was a group that went to the community college this past couple weeks ago. If they had a smaller number. I know Mr. Marchand takes groups for different field trips, and they're smaller groups. These would be opportunities that they could use that bus and save money on their trips. Custodians. Again, we talked, I don't know but that's a big number. And I gotta tell you, for the most part, very happy with the custodial coverage we get. But there are, there's 2 to 3, I think that we changed to 3 for the football games, Dave, I think we did. But for varsity football games, and 2 for varsity boys basketball games. The basketball games very often are triple headers. The gym is set up before the end of school when there's going to be a triple header, and there's a lot of time when we're paying for custodial hours that really don't need that coverage. And again, I know this is a contract issue, so it's way beyond my pay scale, but that's a big number. Is there, the questions to the contract would be, is there a minimum number of hours that they work and so forth? But, on a triple header in basketball, that's 5 hours of game time, and then there's cleanup time after that, so that becomes a very large number for us in athletics. Equipment and supplies. It seems like a small number, but we purchase things out of the athletic activities account, which is what our paid receipts are. We've had discussions about how this should be handled. So the number really is, though it's budgeted at $16,000, the amount that we actually purchase in the course of the year is more than that when we use the money in the activities account. Are there ways to reduce that? I was at the athletic directors conference last week, and I spoke with several of the local athletic directors, and they said they would love to sit down and talk about doing some type of group purchasing. I spoke with Jay Sharosnik from Sportsman in Litchfield, and he said, obviously, that would save a tremendous amount of cost. If you're going to buy 100 dozen baseballs, it's definitely going to be a better price than 10 dozen. So there are things that we should look at to try and reduce our costs there. The YMCA rental, I didn't put the figure in on that. We really need to look at renegotiating that contract. Somehow, some way, we need to try and get them to come to the table and understand that the price is too high. And I know I was speaking with Coach Marchand, and he told me that in his investigations, he found out that the pool at Wesleyan University is charged out at the same hourly fee as the YMCA in Torrington is, and it is a much better facility. So, I think there's a lot of room there for them to work with us. And then the other thing would be to explore alternative sites. I have a call into the CJR. I keep missing my connection there, but in speaking with athletic directors who use the CJR for a pool, they pay significantly less. They pay between $15,000 and $17,000 for a season for use of that pool. Now, I know that brings into a whole lot of issues with traveling to the pool and that. So when we start, we're looking at the numbers that the YMCA is charging us. I think we need to consider, all the possibilities as far as what we're doing with our athletic budget. Cost cutting. Find items that we pay to provide which can be passed on to the athlete. I'm going to explain, there's something we do now. We do impact testing, which is the concussion testing for the students. I am in favor of the impact testing. When we first put it in, my son was on the golf team. I had him come down and get the impact test in the fall before he started his hockey season, so that I made sure that we had his impact test done. It is a useful piece of information that is very, very important in determining return to play. Now, having said that, I want to make sure I say this the right way. That is an item which benefits the student and benefits the parents, much the same as if you hurt your knee, you would get an MRI to determine whether it's injured severe enough to come back to play. We don't pay for the MRIs. Now, this is not a big item. This is a $500 item per year. It's not a big item, but it does cost us in that our trainer does the testing. So that's time that she's contracted to us, that she's in the computer lab doing the tests with the students, and she's not in the training room seeing the athletes who have injuries, you know, who maybe been out of practice and got injured while she's in the computer lab doing the test. So that does, you know, cut into our contract time. I know it sounds, you know, sounds callous to say that, you know, but I think that we, you know, should make this available for the students and offer it at a slight fee for them to take the test. And we could then balance out. Now, again, this is a small item, but this is the type of thing that we should investigate deeper in and see what other things we could do, okay, what other items we could pull out that we could do this type of a program with. Income. We need to improve the income stream into the athletic department, which can offset items included in the budget. We could do some type of sponsorships, gold, silver, and bronze for lack of any other names. Universities use them, many high schools use them, where they would offer you know, some type of a ticket package you can get into. You know, we do something with the Booster Club where we give them you know, a dollar off on their admission when they come in. They get one free and they get $1 off on another admission. We you know, we could do something along those lines and see if we could generate some income there. Corporate sponsors. We have fencing all around our fields. Could we put advertising on the fields and in the gym? And we have a big old wall that people walk past when they come up to the fields. You know, could we do something there? Game programs, selling advertising. Possibly having the people who advertise might do some kind of giveaways in there that might spur people to want to come to the games. Restructuring of the sports boosters. This is one that I know I'm going to catch grief for, but we have a lot of individual booster groups with each team. And they do a wonderful job raising money for their team. And most of that money goes towards putting on a season-ending banquet. What happens is we have these groups that are competing for the same dollar. Okay? And at some point, you know, they keep coming to you, they come to you, they come to you. You know, you want, well, I already gave, what, you know, to this group, I gave to that group. So at some point, somebody's going to lose out. You know, what are the reasons they're raising the money? You know, is it going for the good of the athletes, or is it going for, you know, the big, you know, bonanza at the end of the year and prizes for the seniors as they leave? I'm not making a judgment on that. I'm just saying that maybe we're not, you know, we're not putting our money to the best use that we could raise. Centralized booster fund provides more bang for the buck. If we were able to develop a very strong centralized booster club, we could start to raise probably some better amounts of money that we could then use for some big ticket items when the time comes. And that would definitely be a help to the budget when those things pop up. You know, I spoke about, you know, this year we have to buy new soccer uniforms. The home uniforms have to be all white. Ours have red trim on. So as of this fall, those are illegal uniforms for varsity play. So we buy new uniforms for the varsity, those varsity uniforms get passed on to the JVs, and we rotate them through that way. Because the JVs don't have to have the same equipment rule. So this would be an area where if you get caught in one of those fines where you need, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 for a new set of uniforms, you're able to have a place where you can go to get that. Income producing projects. I just used this as an example. Clinics and seminars, an example, because I happen to know more about this than some other things, would be a sports medicine symposium or seminar. We have an unusually large number of alumni from Torrington High School that are involved in sports medicine. And in some of my discussions with some of them, they would be more than willing to come back and be involved in a seminar that would help to raise money for Torrington High School athletics. We have people who are physicians, prominent physicians in the sports medicine world, athletic trainers at colleges and universities, private schools, and high schools. So we have, you know, a wealth of knowledge that could help us out with this, which keeps it low cost and a potentially high return for us. This could also be taken out into coaching seminars and such things that we might be able to put on and bring in coaches from around the state for different types of skill clinics. Identifying influential alumni. This is, I take this from the college ranks, but I can tell you I've already spoken with an alumnus of Torrington High School who is in a pretty prominent position in sports, in the sports marketing world, and we've been talking about the possibility of grants from corporations. What does that entail? So he's tracking down that information for me, trying to find out what companies. He said a few years ago, he said, if you would paint a swoosh in the middle of the football field, Nike would come in and put a new field down for it. You know, they had no problems with that. Economy being what it is, it's a little bit, it's a little more scarce to find that money. Moving forward, we have many projects in the pipeline for improvement of THF athletics. The number one thing is our athletic advisory committee. We've just started meeting. I invite anyone here that would like to come down to the meetings to come on down and help out. We are in the middle of literally tearing apart our athletic handbook and looking at all of the different aspects of it. Jada Mattiello has taken the red pen to it and is starting to correct all the mistakes that are in there grammatically, so we're in good hands that way. But the advisory committee is going to look at all aspects of the athletic program. You'll see in your packet that I put in an article that was written by members of the CIAC staff, and it has to do with athletic program evaluation. The CIAC offers a service that they will come into your school, much like the NEAS would come in and evaluate all your programs, see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, make commendations and recommendations. And it's, you know, they will come in and do that. It's a very small fee. We're in the process of, we're doing our own little self-study based upon the CIAC guidelines and what they're looking for when they come in. So that's where we're going. We're working right now with our handbook, and we're going to move on from there. But if you look at that article, I'd just like to point out a couple of things that are in there. As soon as I find mine. And this was done by Paul Holley and Bob Blair, two of the CIAC officers that
that work with the schools. I'm calling them constantly on eligibility questions. And if you look at the third page, the bulleted items, and it talks about athletics department mission statement. We've talked about that in our advisory committee. That's going to be part of this new handbook. We're going to actually develop that mission statement and what we're going to go by. Communications. Okay, parents were especially critical of the absence of information from the athletics department. Okay, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to be developing an athletic department website, a standalone website. This is going to be developed with supervision of a couple of the faculty members who agreed to take it on, but it's basically going to be developed and run by the students. And we're going to get them involved, and we're going to have them do the work. Essentially, we're going to make them our sports information director. Okay, preseason meetings. We do the preseason meetings. Okay, we have documents that go out. The coaches send things out to the parents all the time. Okay, and so on. We do a lot of these things that are pointed out in this article. So we're well on our way. We just need to take that advisory committee and push it a little bit further. We're developing with myself and Mike Fritsch Sr., we're in the process of developing a novice coach mentoring program. We have arriving at some point when final approval is made, a new football coach who is a first-time head coach. He's had a lot of coaching experience, but he's never been in charge of the program before. So what are the things that are entailed? Who does he have to go to talk to? You know, what coaches are going to be there to help him through some of the sticky spots? So we are going to be developing that. And Mike is kind of spearheading that along with myself. Enhanced athletic department professional development. We're going to try and get more involved in bringing in speakers for the coaches, people from the CIAC. They have a kind of an open policy that if you need to have one of their professionals come in and speak, they'll come up. They'll make the time, they'll come up and they'll speak. So we want to do that. We want to take advantage of any opportunity we can to bring in experienced coaches and administrators to work with our coaches to make them better coaches, better teachers, and better leaders. Improved coordination with the guidance department regarding college-bound athletes. We have a process that we have to go through with the NCAA in that all of our courses have to be approved to meet their core course standards. So that means anytime we have a new course that comes into our book here at Torrington High School, we send it to the NCAA Eligibility Center, and they will approve it as a core course or not approve it as a core course, in which case you can then appeal it, you can send them more information and try and sway them to your side. They even want you, if you rename a course, it's the same course, you rename it, you got to send it in again too. So these are the things that we need to stay on top of, coordinating with the guidance department to make sure that they're on the same page with the athletic department, so that these kids that have the opportunity to go to college and participate in athletics in college are able to do so in a unfettered process. Unified sports. I went to a seminar on just this past Monday, and at the CIAC, and they talked about the inclusion of disabled students in athletics and the process that we need to go through in order to make sure that we are complying with the laws and that we're giving everybody the opportunities that they deserve. And one of the things they did talk about was that while doing unified sports or having disabled athletes participating at the varsity, JV, or freshman level, that it's important that they're making connections with these athletes, but that we have opportunities for them. Okay? We want to make those opportunities. They talk about, though it's new how they're presenting it to schools,
the CIAC made it clear that most schools should think about getting out in front of this and making sure that they have programs in place for the disabled student who cannot play on a varsity or JV team. Okay? So we want to start thinking about possibly having unified sports or other alternative sports and activities, which can be for disabled students or could be for students who are, right now, the non-involved athletic student. In physical education classes, we often see some of the kids that when we do cooperative games, which is project adventure kind of activities, where you give them a challenge of some type. You give them 3 pieces of equipment and they got to get from one place to another using that equipment. Sometimes the students who are not the ones that jump out when we do basketball or floor hockey or volleyball are the ones that step up as leaders when we do some of these alternative programs. I think this type of an idea where we could get some other, and again, I just put some things up there, thinking back to my experiences with private schools, some of the things that they do, but something like Frisbee golf is a relatively inexpensive endeavor. We could set it up out here for a very small fee. We could do hiking for a very relatively small amount of money. If we had the buses, we'd be able to take kids, to go hiking in different trails and things like that. We could do orienteering. We could do a lot of different activities to get students, get a non-active, student looking for an alternative activity. Okay, just a couple of things. The Public Act 1155 having to do with transgender participation, that's going to be coming across your radar screen. There's a bill up for a vote now concerning hiring of athletic directors and new standards for hiring of athletic directors. According to the new law, we fit fine as of right now. So, we're okay with it. And I already went over the athletic program evaluation. Okay, the last thing, in my short time, I've seen a lot of different things going on, and I just thought I would just give you my piece of my mind here, the little I have left, is down the road you might be wanting to think about making a position of a full-time position, but to include athletics and extracurricular activities, not just athletics. Coordinate all the programs and venues. Right now, that can be a nightmare, trying to coordinate that. I'm on the phone with Dave, who's in the gym, who's here, who's there, and it's sometimes very difficult to know who's coming and who's going. Align all the programs and goals with the mission statement of THS. Unified budgeting, eliminating a feeling of competing against each other for the same dollar. Okay, I have heard things about, how come they're getting this and we're not getting that? We're getting cut this, we're getting, they're getting that. And that starts to have rivalries going amongst the students for, competing for the same dollar. And that's not healthy for the school climate. Increase communication and cooperation between the organizations. Free up the building administrators to deal with whole school issues. Improved evaluation of programs and personnel. Greater organization will lead to more opportunities for students. That's probably the biggest one. And then if the time comes when you consider pay to play, the administration of pay to play from the people I've talked to can be very cumbersome. And that's just something to think about. Any questions?
Do the people who tell us we have to change our uniforms live in Never Never Land? There's a huge expense to that, as you said.
Absolutely. But as long as we are going to participate in the National Federation High School Sports, which is what everybody else participates in, we have to go by their rules.
Anyone ever push back?
Pardon me?
Does anyone ever push back?
People complain, but it's a powerful organization. It's much like, if you think about people trying to push back against the NCAA and, you know, things you might have read in the paper regarding that. It's not a good outcome usually for people that do it, you know. They're just spinning their wheels. It's a
And what if
very
you
big
don't?
organization.
Yeah, what if you don't? What if we just say, we're gonna keep the red stripe until we can afford uniform?
Referees will refuse to start the game. Personally, there's some rules in that just make me cringe when I read them. I used to be a basketball official, and the rules that they had were, I mean, some of them, you know, where they had to wear their waistband of their pants, you know, and so on and so forth. You know, the amount of things that they try to legislate through the rules, and some of it just doesn't make any sense at all. The uniform thing, I don't understand. You know, I don't see a whole lot of confusion going on out there with kids seeing who's on what team.
What is the budget, what do we have budgeted for sports this year?
Well, it came in at $499,000.
$4.5 million. Okay. Mr. Kennedy, first of all, thank you for that presentation. I know you knew what this, I thought that was actually a really good presentation. And I know you jumped into a very difficult situation. What wasn't mentioned is you know, the bigger context of why do sports exist at THS at all? Why do we spend $500,000? Vast majority, I know from my own, you know, my daughter plays sports with a passion and has many athlete friends. I played sports in high school, my family played sports in high school, big supporter of sports in high school. The fact of the matter is very few kids go on to play D1, D2 ball here. So the reality is we don't spend all this money to produce college athletes. There must be another reason why we do it. And I think the reason that we do it, in my opinion, and the reason why we take $500,000 that could also be spent on a badly needed tech ed program, on a much analyzed nursing program, goes to page 2 of the superintendent's budget, where she says elimination of sports if we were to zero budget. This is a source of sports is a source of community pride, potential scholarships for team building. That's not really that big of a deal because very few kids play college ball. But elimination of sports is a source of motivating and character building part of the school program. Athletes address their learning needs and experience through sports, essential for educating both the whole child. At the very end of your presentation, page 12, you say that extracurricular administration is something you're looking at, aligning programs and goals with the mission statement of THS. Now, I'm not here to pass judgment. Nobody in this board can pass judgment on things that have occurred with the sports program in the last year. They are complicated and intertwined, and piece by piece, this board is looking at that and dealing with it. My question to you as the new athletic director is, what do you see as the role of sports at THS? Why do we spend $500,000 on it, and what do we expect is the benefit to this community for spending that, to continue? To me, the sports program is not a right. It is not a right. It is a privilege. And unless the sports program is doing character building, is turning out kids who are more positively involved, is doing the kinds of things that the ROTC program is doing, then maybe this whole thing is for naught. And I'd just like to hear you address that and what actions you plan to take so that the board actually can, in good faith, spend $500,000 of taxpayer money on a program that will accomplish something in our student body.
Well, I think the superintendent has you know, said in her proposal that, you know, the character building. Now, I know we've had a couple of hiccups.
Some people would argue that's more, but go on.
Well, again, we're talking about a small number of participants in the programs as far as we know at this point. But if we look at
a whole bunch of hazing incidents that came up, there were a number of, this is before your time,
okay.
and again, there's a lot of hearsay, but the perception in the community, and everybody knows this, and I'm not saying anything you never, everybody knows this, that there is a perception by a large number of people that this program is not being managed correctly, has not been managed effectively by our administrators. That's a perception, and I've heard it more than I care to hear anymore. And I'd like to know you, as the point personnel for the athletic program, what you intend to do about that.
Well, number one is we have the athletic advisory committee, which is we have parents, we have community members, we have administrators, coaches that are working together to find out what our ills are in the athletic department. We're trying to bring out anything that we're not doing well. Let's find out what we're not doing well, and then let's figure out how we're gonna fix it. That's first and foremost, we have to do that. I'd be foolish to sit here and say that there aren't any problems, because every program you could look at, you could find problems in. What I also want to say is, I can't sit here and say that the whole program is bad. We have some absolutely spectacular coaches. We have great kids, as you can see by the academic averages. The girls basketball team and the girls soccer team had 96 or 97% of their kids at 85 or above on the academics. We have numerous athletes who are making academic honors. I just found out today from Mike Fritsch that Macon Calabrese was named to the all-state academic team. So, you know, there are, you know, a lot of good things that happen. Is everybody gonna go on to play college? No. They're not gonna play Division I ball. But I would argue that if a student wanted to work hard in high school at their sport, there are colleges out there that they can find that they can participate in their sport. And I would, you know, I challenge anybody. I went to school in Southwest Ohio, and I lived in Minnesota, and I'm gonna tell you, you go to Indiana or Iowa, you can't throw a stone without hitting a Division III school that has a football team. So, you know, there's plenty of opportunities out there for these kids in basketball and soccer and that, to find a school that matches their academic needs and their athletic needs, if they so choose. If they so choose. And a lot of times, the coaches can help pave the way for the kids to get into these schools and can help them find a little bit more financial aid at the Division III level than you know, yeah, we're not sending a lot of kids to Division I. You know, that's just not gonna happen. It doesn't happen very much at most schools. But we're in the process of trying to change how we do things, if it needs to be changed, change what we need to change, keep what we do well, change what we need to change, move forward, you know, make our program bigger, stronger, and better.
Better defined as what?
Better is defined as,
Is it win-loss?
no, never, ever in my, and you can ask anybody, I know some people I've coached with are back here, and they will tell you that that has never been a consideration of mine, and I make that clear to our coaches all the time. You know, getting their work done in the classroom, being accountable, being responsible, those are the things that I hold to be important in an athletic program. Those are the things that we can teach our student athletes to become better at. Being on time for practice is probably going to translate to them being on time for their classes. And then in the future, it's going to be on time for work, where, you know, we expect them to follow these rules, to be responsible and accountable. That's what the athletic program that I want to lead is going to look like.